second row, we've got number 17, Bob, Malaysia. Number 17 is Rostam. Alongside him, we've got the young man from Malaysia who performed exceedingly well, Adam Nuruddin. He's riding bike number 10. He was second yesterday. And next to him is another exciting young boy from Thailand, Azira Uvapat, and he's riding bike number 13. Petak yang kedua, petak keempat, untuk depan keluar dari Malaysia, atau perempuan dari Malaysia, Pakusi Syakrin Rostam. Petak yang kelima, nombor 10, perempuan yang di tempat kedua semalam dalam perempuan yang cukup menebalkan, Adam Nuruddin dari Malaysia. Sementara di petak yang ke-6, perempuan nombor 13 dari Thailand, Nagarin Azira Uvapat.
Hello and welcome to Sepang for the Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup. These are highlights from race 1 yesterday as Sasaki, the championship leader, rider number 22, started from pole position and started well. He led for the first few laps. Number 21 there, Takuma Kunimine, chasing him down. Number 2 though, Kazuki Masaki, fellow Japanese young rider, started filtering his way through the pack and eventually got out front, but then ran wide into turn 15, allowing a few bikes into the frame. 6 bikes then were fighting it out for the race win overall. Ai Agura, number 9, another Japanese rider, then took a turn to lead. In the background there of the other riders, number 13, Atira Puvapat of Thailand, and number 10, Adam Nuruddin from Malaysia, of course, looking to score a result here on home turf. So this was the battle down into turn 1. Ai Agura at this particular moment in the closing stages leading, but then Sasaki went out front. He had a big look over his shoulder going into turn 9, and that was a bit of a mistake as he allowed Ai Agura through, and then there was a bit of jostling for positions going on further back. They all stayed upright, and then it was the chase now down to the line. Adam Nuruddin thought he had it, but this was the race winning overtaking manoeuvre from Sasaki. Ayumu Sasaki, who was leading the championship, hadn't got a win until this point, now finally has the first win of the 2015 season, to add to the 2 that he picked up last year as well. So here we are then, ready for race 2 in Sepang, and so Sasaki now has 101 points. It's a 33-point lead for him ahead of fellow Japanese rider Kazuki Masaki. So we have Sasaki and Masaki, who are actually also first and second on the grid as well. Somkit Chantra is third in the championship, number 18, but unfortunately the Thai rider broke his leg last week and so misses out this round in Malaysia. Get well soon to Somkit, but that really has dented his championship chances. Here is the number 22 though, Ayumu Sasaki, the 14-year-old who was 4th overall in this championship last year, currently also racing in the Red Bull Rookies, 8th in that championship, and looking for another win here today. Steve Day alongside Gregory Haynes. A great race as usual that we witnessed yesterday, Greg.
Certainly was, as you said, 6 riders it was fighting for victory over the line. A 13-lap distance yesterday, exactly the same here at Sepang this afternoon, just coming up to 10 to 12 local time now. So 72 kilometres, 44 miles of racing in front of us, and as you say, Sasaki starting on pole position ahead of his 15th birthday in October. Here is Masaki then, so we'll try and avoid any confusion there between Sasaki, who's number 22, and Masaki, who's number 2, so that doesn't really help us either, the fact the numbers are so different as well. It's good to see that the crash helmet colours have changed in many cases for 2015. They were all the same colour at the start of the Asia Talent Cup last year, and it was pretty confusing. Of course, the main way to identify the bikes are the very large white numbers on the front of the fairing. Good to see a reasonable amount of people already making their way into Sepang this morning. There is a threat of rain. We certainly haven't had any rain, significant rain that is, since 12 noon on Friday afternoon. But as you can see in the background there, it's a little bit overcast here at Sepang this morning. Shafiq Razul, he won here in the Asia Talent Cup, his first and so far only victory at Sepang last season.
Yeah, Shafiq Rasool, 5th overall in the championship in the end in that 2014 campaign. 9th overall this year, and he'll want to certainly be a part of the leading group this time. Yesterday, of course, started from the front row, but really did not get away from the line very well and ended up trying to play catch-up. The same for this rider as well, for Krusi Rostam, number 17, 4th on the grid. You pointed out yesterday in the race, Greg, that it was actually nice to see that every single rider actually finished the race.
It was indeed, and that certainly has not been the case in most of the Asia Talent Cup races so far since it began at the start of 2014. If you are new to the Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup, welcome first of all. Nice to have you with us. And this is a brand new series that was started in 2014, set up by Dorna. Of course, Shell Advance very much backing the scheme and looking to move riders straight up, looking to create a direct path for riders from the Asian region and also from this season onwards from Australia and New Zealand. They all go through a selection event and they're being mentored by the likes of Hiroshi Ayama and most notably Alberto Puig. And as Steve has already said, there's now a real direct route into the Moto3 Junior World Championship with the Asia Talent team. 3 riders from last year already gone into that one, and some of them still racing on this particular grid, and also the Red Bull MotoGP Rookies Cup. So right here we have a clear path, right from grassroots motorcycle racing to the very top of the two-wheeled action in MotoGP and indeed World Superbike, and we are supporting the World Superbike Championship here this weekend.
Yeah, a 12-race championship, 6 rounds in 5 different countries. We started things off at the Sepang International Circuit in Thailand, a relatively new circuit. Of course, the World Superbike Championship were there for their second round earlier in the year. That was in March. Seems like a long time ago now. Losail, of course, Qatar was round 2 for the Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup. That was the opening round for MotoGP. And here we are in Sepang for round 3, coinciding with round 10 of the World Superbike Championship. From here, they move on to Zhuhai in China, then Motegi in Japan, MotoGP, of course, and Sepang again at the end of the year. I would imagine that'll be, September, October, that time of year again, of course, for the MotoGP Championship. That is their final round. All of the riders are on exactly the same bikes, Honda NSF 250R Moto3 bikes. And from that selection process, if you like, from Asia and Australasia now, 175 riders entered. And, of course, 22 eventually picked to start. We've had a few changes here and there as the season's gone on, but the majority of the top 10 have stayed the same. And I believe, Greg, that they're even looking now to recruit ready for next season.
Yeah, 2 weeks to go until the process, or the window, I should say. The deadline is met on the 15th of August. Basically, if you're looking to try and get involved, if you were born between the 1st of January 1995 and the 1st of February 2003, you would be eligible to compete in the 2016 edition of the Asia Talent Cup. Just go on to www.asiatalentcup.com, go onto the news page and then click on the Apply Now button. You can see all of the conditions there, fill in your details. If you're then selected, you'll move through to the selection event, and indeed riders from over 20 countries have already applied. You'll then be going to the Sepang karting circuit on the outside of turn 3 here on Honda Underbone scooter machinery, just to see what you can do there. Alberto Puig will be watching on very carefully, and several riders will be selected to go through, and that's how they will determine the grid for next year. It'll be a mix, basically, Steve, of some new riders and about half of the current grid here.
And in terms of nationalities that are actually allowed to compete?
Anyone from the Asian region, and also from this season onwards from New Zealand and Australia. And it is good to see we have had some Australians on the grid, and indeed we do have one on the grid right here today. We have lost one of the Australians, but Lachlan Taylor, number 16, is on the grid. It's been a difficult start. He's starting 20th on the grid here, but it is a very, very steep learning curve. Even more so, of course, this year, because we do have riders now in their second season, so they know these tracks, they know these bikes.
Yeah, and there are some dangling carrots out there as well. These guys follow the World Superbike Championship, the MotoGP World Championship around the world. They get to see their stars, they get to waltz around in the paddock and meet their heroes. But, of course, the team managers and crew chiefs, etc., get to watch as well. In fact, as I'm now looking down, Tom Sykes, the World Superbike champion, is actually stood with his brother having a look over onto the grid he was just then, and now he's just walked back into the middle of the paddock. So that just gives you an idea. You've often seen at the start of Moto3 races in World Championship, of course, the likes of Valentino Rossi and many others keep an eye on things. So what a fantastic shop window it is for the youngsters of Asia and Australasia, of course, to be racing here and following these championships around. You mentioned yesterday, Greg, that there's obviously some of them already racing in Red Bull Rookies and the CV Repsol Championship.
It's amazing to think as well, Steve, that if you start here at, say, 13 years of age, if you do go on to, let's say, for example, the MotoGP World Championship, by the time you get into your early 30s, you're already over 20 years into your racing career. You know, you could get a good 2-3 decades of racing, professional racing in your career, starting as early as they do nowadays in this really professional series as it is. As I say, Alberto Puig, former Grand Prix rider, he, of course, renowned for the talent scouting of many very successful Grand Prix riders, Dani Pedrosa perhaps most notably, and Hiroshi Oyama now working alongside Alberto Puig. Remember, he was the 250cc world champion back in 2009 on a Honda, of course, and went very well here at Sepang. 2 Grand Prix wins here and 4 pole positions at Sepang for Hiroshi Oyama over his Grand Prix career. So plenty of advice from those guys down in the pit lane here. They've got 2 garage spaces towards the end of the pit lane filled with Asia Talent Cup bikes. There's 21 of them here on this grid because, of course, Somkiat Chantra is out of action.
Now, in terms of the weather, as you know, it's changeable here in this part of the world. Well, it's changed in the last 30 seconds. There are a few aggressive clouds forming over the circuit a little while ago, and I look directly out of our commentary box window at the moment. We can see blue skies, and we can see that the sun is shining because of the rather large shadows being cast over pit lane. So the weather here probably as bright and as warm as it has been at any part over the weekend so far. That won't play a huge part in terms of tyres for these machines in particular. It would do on larger machinery. Here they are then making their way onto the back straight, 920 metres long, and then into turn 15. This is, of course, Slipstream City. Vital in a class like this to get Slipstream sorted out, and we will see whether or not we will have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bikes maybe in a row fighting it out for the win. All eyes, of course, on the championship leader, Ayumu Sasaki. A 33-point lead, Greg, at this stage of the season is quite comfortable. If he can leave here with a similar gap or even extend it, he really would be very difficult to beat with another 3 rounds remaining.
A very important point, because we will be at the halfway point of this particular season. This is race 6 of 12 in the Asia Talent Cup for 2015, so we will be at the halfway point of the season at the end of this 13-lap race. The point system is exactly the same as in the World Championship, so i.e. 25 points for the win. So, of course, with a 33-point cushion, Sasaki cannot be headed whatever happens here over the next half hour or so. And an interesting point on the weather as well, Steve, because if we do get any rain, it would be the first ever rain-affected race in the Asia Talent Cup.
Here we go then. They line up on the grid, ready to start this second race in Malaysia. All eyes on the lights in the top left corner. They'll go red, and once they go out, we will begin. Let's see whether some of the guys can get a better start. Adam Notterdin there, just edged off the line. That was very close to whether the lights went off in time. We'll find out in a moment, but let's keep our eyes on this for now. Sasaki did not get away well from pole position. In fact, it is number 12, Yamanaka, that looks like he might have it. Agura, though, number 9 around the outside. What a move that was from Agura, who leads into turn 1, Greg.
And as lurid as ever, Naka in Atira Puvapat, the number 13, the Thai winner from earlier this season, had a big moment under braking for turn 1. Nearly lost the front end. As clean as you like, though, as they hit turn 3 for the first time. Great stuff.
Yeah, they looked like there was a rider just towards the back end of the grid that was going straight on there as well. We'll keep our eyes and see whether or not all riders have made it through. Sasaki, after that bad start, what a recovery that is. It looked like he was down to 5th or 6th at one point as they headed down into turn 1, but the championship leader already showing how good he is. In second place there still, Yamanaka, number 12. Agura's up there, Tirapuvapa, as you mentioned, Greg, Masaki, Rasol, Norodin, Kanumene, Salim and Asman are the top 10 at the moment, if I can get my words out.
It's difficult to get your words out there, isn't it, in these races? As frenetic as ever. What's out, though, for Takuma Kaninime? You mentioned him there. Started 8th on the grid, 7th at the moment. That's the number 21 bike in the middle of your picture there. They hit turn 9 for the first time. Look at Atira Puvapat, number 13. He's up the inside, trying to go from 4th to the lead. That was very, very courageous. Well, he's got one. Up into 3rd goes the Thai rider, one of the oldest riders in the field. It's always a little bit nervy, though, isn't it, watching Atira Puvapat?
Yeah, number 13 there. It's unlucky for some. It hasn't been so far for Atira Puvapat, but after yesterday, he spent so much time trying to chase the leading pack and eventually finished in 5th. I fancy that maybe he's changing his tactics for this afternoon. in race 2. Look at all of the different lines being taken there. A real tight approach for number 2, Masaki, as he goes underneath. I think that was Yamanaka. So it's Sasaki that leads, number 22 from Ogura. Then Atira Puvapat, who's actually the only Thai rider at the moment in the top 6 or 7, and is splitting, what, 5 or 6, maybe even 7 Japanese riders.
To say it's a great start for Yamanaki. He's one of the rookies in the field this year, the 13-year-old from Japan at number 12. He's actually now then into the top 5 from 9th on the grid, so great stuff for Yamanaka. They complete the first of the 13 laps. Over the line they go with the top 13 riders covered by 2 seconds. Long way to go. You can't win the race, of course, in these stages, but you can certainly lose it. Side by side all over the place.
Yeah, such a wide circuit here in Sepang. Agura there took a really tight line into turn 1, but then couldn't hold the line, and Sasaki gobbled him up again and managed to fight back through to the lead. Sometimes it just looks like they might just go across each other and wipe each other out, but it doesn't seem to happen, which is obviously good news. Good start also for Salim, number 4. Jerry Salim from Indonesia. He's making good progress. Look out for him, number 4.
So Sasaki from Agura. Masaki has dropped down from 2nd to 3rd. No major problems there, though. Atira Puvapat is still 4th. Then it's Yamanaka. Salim, as you say, is in 6th at the moment. He's just past Kuninime. Then it's Noridin Rasul. And Helmi Asman's made a very good start, actually. The pole sitter from Qatar started 13th. He's now 10th. No jump starts confirmed on the timing screen, which is good to see, because I also feared there was some creeping further back, so that clearly wasn't the case.
No, he's obviously got it absolutely spot on, and well, fair play. That was Adam Noridin we were talking about, number 10, that seemed like he might be creeping off the line. Not so. Sasaki it is there, number 22, that has this lead into turn 9, but here comes Ayagura with a really tight approach, and yet again chopping up Sasaki, and he's lost out there. He's dropped back to 3rd place as a result. Atira Puvapat now trying to challenge for the lead overall, and does, into turn 11. Good stuff there for the Thai rider.
Marvellous stuff. Started the lap in 4th position, now leads the race. Atira Puvapat is down there in 5th in the championship. He's 57 points behind the leader, Sasaki. He knows it's all but over unless he finishes in front of him in all of the remaining races in such a short season of only 12 races, and this is race number 6. So Atira Puvapat leads, and don't forget, we're still yet to see a repeat winner in 2015.
This is incredible stuff here in the Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup, pulling out of the slipstream. 3 or 4 bikes there. Agura number 9, number 2 there. Masaki, look at them. It is just like a load of wasps sort of chasing down towards the final corner, attacking each other constantly to see who can get out front. This has got a different smell to it, though, than what we saw yesterday. 5, 6 bikes seem to career away from the rest of the pack, and it looks like they're all a lot closer this time. Across the line we go. It was Masaki from Agura. Agura's on the left-hand side, number 9. Masaki all the way over on the right, number 2.
You feel like a bingo caller, don't you, when you're commentating on a race like this? We have to keep a close eye on the numbers on the front of the fairings. A lot of front-end chatter there for Atira Puvapat as he tipped it into the right-hander of turn 1. You get the concertina effects here into the 2nd corner. We've seen many incidents there, haven't we, over the last few years, and this very, very difficult right-hander leaned over on the right-hand side of the tyre for so much of the 5.5-kilometre lap here at Sepang. And this is all about racecraft. It's great to see them developing their racecraft, all on identical machinery, of course, so early on in their careers. Plenty of important faces, of course, watching on down in the garages. Indeed, Alberto Puig in particular, and Hiroshi Ayama. It's Agura then who now leads the race, and he started 7th, so great start again for Agura, just as we saw yesterday.
Yeah, Agura really helped himself out in terms of the championship yesterday with that strong finish in the end. He only managed to finish in 6th, but he did lift himself up to 9th overall in the standings. It doesn't look like Agura really has much of a chance of winning this series overall, but certainly he's making a case for himself. In the background there, Adam Noridin just running wide, and the rider that was on the podium yesterday will have a job on here to get himself anywhere near the top 3 in race 2.
Oh, Agura on the inside line, they've pushed each other out wide, so Atira Puvapat looking to benefit from the situation. They tip it right into turns 10 and 11. Atira Puvapat, the number 13 lead. Somebody running very wide at the background. That may well have been Yuta Date, somebody well offline into the right-hander of 11. Good to see, though, they are all still running, all 21 of them still in the race.
Yeah, they're all flying around here, all taking contrasting lines, but there doesn't really seem to slow any of them down. Here you can see different lines once more. Number 21 especially, Takuma Kunimane now trying to get some excellent drive onto this back straight. On the inside there is number 12 as well, Yamanaka, but it's number 13, Atira Puvapat, who comes under attack now from Ayagura, and number 22 also trying trying to get through the middle. We were talking about bingo a minute ago. There are no fat ladies here, but there's certainly two little ducks. Number 22 goes into the lead.
Certainly does. We're going to have to get the list of all of the expressions, aren't we, so we can reel those off perhaps in future races. There's the 22 then over the line, as you say. Sasaki in the lead. Don't forget, he did start from pole. Never seems to panic, does he, Sasaki? Never desperate to lead the race. He knows he can sit there in third or fourth position. As I said earlier on, you're not going to win the race at these stages. It's all about following each other, sizing each other up. Look at that, the 9 of Agura chopping across the front of Sasaki under braking for turn 1.
Interesting to see Agura's lines through pretty much every corner. He really does cut them off into a sort of a point in each corner. He doesn't go for necessarily what you would consider as the racing line, whereas Sasaki, number 22 behind, really does. So contrasting lines here for the two guys out front, number 22 and number 9. Up to turn 4 we go, and Agura takes the lead. Masaki now moves into second place, number 2. Sasaki punched down to third.
Now, Adam Norridin started 5th. Don't forget, finished yesterday's race right up there in second place. You mentioned, Steve, that he ran out wide coming out of turn 8 on the previous lap, but he's lost out badly. Norridin is currently down there in 13th position. Shouldn't be a major worry. He'll have time to fight back, as you can see in the top left of your screen. Whoa, and a big incident in the background. That is coming out of the right-hander of turn 6. Somebody is high-sided by the looks of things. Let's hope the rider is okay. Yellow flags will be flying. That was an incident some way down the field.
Yeah, that looked like a nasty one with the bike cartwheeling away there. Nice to see that the rider's up, albeit limping away from the scene, but that could have been really nasty. That's the first faller that we've seen in this class all weekend so far, certainly in racing terms. It was number 19 that went down, and that was the Chinese rider Chen Yuan Hang who's gone down, so best wishes to him.
Yeah, the two Chens were running around together, but there was a big gap between them. He was the first of the riders who was not running in this leading train all locked together. He was the first we were seeing in the background, in the distance, when we had the long shots. Yeah, he is then the number 19, as you say, out of the race. He is 19 years of age as well, the oldest rider in the field, actually. Good to see, as you say, that he is walking away. So that drops us down to 20 runners. Lachlan Taylor currently at the back of the field. Great batter going on with Irwan, the number 5, the Malaysian rookie this weekend.
Just looking, the top 15, all of the point scorers are all in this battle. So this entire leading group, every single point available is actually here right in front of us in the same camera shot. That is absolutely incredible. Across the line we go then to start lap 5 of 13. And it is Sasaki that leads, but not for much longer. There's somebody on the pit wall there who hasn't got a pit board, but is actually waving a towel. Now, whether there's a pre-race signal as to say that means get a hurry up, I'm not really sure, but waving a towel is a new one on me.
Yeah, it certainly was a towel and not a white flag, so no panic there in terms of any inclement weather conditions at the moment. But yeah, me too, I'm not quite sure what that one means. We did have a video feature for the World Superbike website the other day about Jonathan Ray's pit board. Didn't think about towels, did we? But this is the Asia Talent Cup. Clearly some different strategies going on down there. Turn 4 in the meantime. Look at this. The number 9 is Agura. 22 is Cup leader Ayumu Sasaki. Masaki is still in there in 3rd position. And what will Attila Puvapat do? Look for the number 13. He's currently in 4th position. Always very brave up the inside of turn 9. In the meantime, Masaki is now on the left of your screen, up the inside of the championship leader Sasaki, and he is through to 2nd place.
They often say that the cream eventually always rises to the top, and it seems to be doing that here with the top 5 or 6 riders. The familiar feel to these names at the sharp end, certainly from commentating at the start of the year in Chang and watching Qatar, and now here in Sepang, you can see that these riders look like they're here to stay. There are 1 or 2 maybe unfamiliar names that are trying to get themselves in the mix though. Rostam, number 17, Salim, number 4. You've got Rasol there, and Asman, who actually showed his face up in the opening round in Thailand. They're in 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th places. If they can hang on to this group for as long as possible, they might be in for a shout of a top 5. But you've got to feel, Greg, that the top 5 runners at the moment seem to be the cream of the crop.
Nakarin Attila Puvapat, that's the 19-year-old Thai rider, 3 times a pole sitter, once a winner earlier this year at home at the Podium International Circuit at Chiang in Thailand. He needs to make sure he shows his front wheel at turn 9 when he dives up the inside, otherwise there's going to be an incident down there. Replay of the start then, look at that. 3rd position on the grid. Rasol made a good start but then dropped back. Rasol, by the way, from the front row, he's now down in 9th position. It's the number 9 then of Agura, who swept into the lead at turn 1. So Agura was already in the lead at turn 1, having started 7th on the grid.
Yeah, that replay there just showed him, and it was such a launch off the line. It was absolutely incredible. There's that white towel being waved on pit wall once again. No one throwing it in just yet. They're all still in the race out front. Number 9, Agura leads again. He's very, very good at getting the slipstream down into turn 1, but he runs slightly wide sometimes. Not so on this occasion. He's got Masaki behind him, Kunimune and Sasaki. So we've got 4 Japanese riders in the top 4 once more. Then Atira Puvapat, in fact, has now moved up into 3rd place ahead of Sasaki. Then it's number 6, Date. So this is a much stronger performance then, Greg, isn't it, than what we saw earlier on in the year.
Well, Yuta Date is the man who led the Cup for almost the whole of 2014 until the very last round here in Malaysia. He was taken out in the last race, and that blew all of his chances. Kaito Toba went on to win. Now here's a replay further back. Now that is the younger brother there of Fahmi Karidin running off, coming onto the back straight, and obviously Idaham not very pleased with himself, but he was only confirmed in the Asia Talent Cup here by Alberto Puig last week, replacing one of the riders who is no longer in the Cup. Now 2 riders have been dropped, and the reason for that is Alberto Puig has assessed their performances so far and feels it wasn't really necessary to carry on in the Cup. Of course, you've got to think of the safety element as well, and you don't want riders getting hurt out there, but that, in the meantime, is carried in then getting to grips with the Asia Talent Cup. Look at the number 21, that's Kunimune. He's very, very good at coming through traffic and very patient as well. Back quickly, Steve, to Yuta Date, who you were mentioning. Started a long, long way down in 10th on the grid. Struggled yesterday in the race to only 12th position. Now, he did suffer an injury in pre-season training before the start of the campaign. More recently, he's completely up to full fitness, but it's more of a psychological struggle. And I know everybody down in the Asia Talent Cup garage has been working very hard with Date because he's extremely talented. The 16-year-old from Japan, he's taken 2 poles, 2 wins in the series last year, and it's great to see him finally back on form. Now then, very interesting on the timing screen. Drops of rain being reported at turn 14. That's the corner in the back of your picture leading on to the back straight.
Well, that is bizarre, because as we sit here on the start-finish straight looking across almost opposite the podium, there doesn't look like there's any sign of rain here at all. We can see blue skies and sunshine, so that is really strange. We're now crossing the line to begin lap 7. We are past the halfway point of this race, and we still have the top 15 here, all going across the line, all of them really in with a shout of a top 5 finish. This is Atira Puvapat that leads, though, number 13 into turn 1. Gets a bit tricky then as they drop downhill into turn 2. You can see that the older rider there, Atira Puvapat, has got quite a large, taller frame compared to some of his opponents. He must be losing out a bit when it comes to slipstream down the start-finish straight. These bikes, by the way, these NSF 250s, they are probably reaching speeds of about 135 miles an hour. I'm not sure how many parents would allow their 13-year-old kids to do it, but I have to say, there's some wise heads on some young shoulders, and the majority of these youngsters have actually been racing since the age of 4.
Pretty scary stuff when you think about it, but they're very, very competent, of course, with all of the advice they're getting from Alberto Puig. I noticed a green flag was waving as they tipped it left for turn 5, so does that suggest something has happened at the previous corner, turn 4? Certainly no yellow flags flashing up on the GPS information we have here in the commentary box, but we'll let you know. Yes, now coming up on the timing screen, number 6 has been off. That is Yuta Date. We were talking about him a moment ago. He's been off and rejoined the race, but dropped all the way down to 15th position. What a shame. Started 10th, was up to 5th at one point, now back down to 15th.
Yeah, that won't do the confidence an awful lot of good. He could have done with a top 5, top 6 finish here, maybe get himself used to being at the sharp end again. It doesn't look like it's going to happen now, though. He's a considerable distance away from the rest of the pack, but we'll keep an eye on him anyway. Number 6, if he can get himself up there now, we'll see. Now we're approaching this corner where apparently there were spots of rain. It's difficult to see on this particular camera angle, so doesn't look like there's any signs of it at the moment.
Anything there might just be on the visors of the crash helmets. They won't want to be put off by that, but a new challenge. We've certainly never seen rain in the Asia Talent Cup before, and they were reported as drops. Certainly no more than that. We may have seen the white towel going out. Will we see the red and white flag going out, I wonder, over the next few laps? We will let you know if we hear of anything else. How that works is that the marshals are stationed at their posts around the track. They'll radio in to race control. If there are any drops of rain in the vicinity, then the timing guys will put that up on the screen, which is here in the commentary box. We'll let you know as soon as we see anything else.
Yeah, it has to be said though, as we watch here, 4 or 5 riders making moves. Attira Puvapad up into 3rd place. It's Masaki that really got some decent drive, that it would have to rain considerably really to affect this race. The track temperature is so warm that these slick tyres would be able to last a couple of laps if it got wet. We know it dries quickly around here as well, so it would have to be a considerable amount of rain really to affect these riders. That said, slick tyres don't work so well now. There's a rider down and looks hurt as well. That's not good news. Where is that? We've got red flags. Red flags are out here on lap 8 of 13, and that's one of the other Chens there, Peng Yuan, who has gone down, and red flags are out. A bit of concern then for him.
Yes, you can see the Chinese flag there on the top of the crash helmet. One of the ways of identifying the riders, apart from the numbers, of course. Now, we're not expecting the race to be over, because the 2/3 distance, if you work it out from lap 13, would be 8.6. That would be rounded down to the end of lap 8. The race has been red flagged on lap 8, so you have to go back to the last complete lap, i.e. everybody in the race finishing the lap, which of course would be lap 7. So the timing screens would go back. We'll let you know when we get official confirmation, but we do have a red flag here in race 6 of the Asia Talent Cup for 2015. You have to say everybody very well behaved in seeing those flags, reacting to them, slowing down, and now of course they'll crawl back round to the pit lane. They'll have to be careful, of course, because the accident scene is on the exit of the final corner right before the pit lane entrance.
Yeah, not everyone being as sensible as you originally stated there, Greg. Unfortunately, I won't mention any names, but here we look further back, and that's a big high side, and a knock to the back of the head there as well. That's a nasty accident there for Chen.
Yes, it is. Let's hope if he's all right, we'll obviously let you know if we hear of anything. The rider would always be taken to the medical centre anyway for precautionary reasons, but if we let you know of any official news, we'll of course inform you of it. So top of your screen there on the left-hand side, red flag obviously out, lap 8 of 13, but just to repeat, yeah, there now we're seeing it. In fact, then they're classing the last complete lap as lap 6. It's now gone back to the end of lap 6 on the timing screen, but now then we are seeing final results. So is this the race being declared? No, I think that was just an error on the graphics there, because the timing screen has gone back to lap 6. You'd expect a restart. We'll let you know when we get official confirmation.
Yeah, tough to know in these particular situations, of course. Sometimes you get a 2 or 3 lap dash, which, well, pretty much every single Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup race is like a dash wherever we go, because it doesn't really seem to impact whether it's 3 laps, 20 laps or 40 laps. These guys are always in a big clunk together anyway, and they're always going for it. So we'll have to wait and see. The riders will be informed in a moment. Of course, they'll just try and attend at the moment. The most important thing is to make sure that Chen is okay. Was that down at turn 15, that crash? Yep. Always very difficult. It's probably the slowest, one of the slowest corners on the circuit. Turns 9, 15, and of course turns 1, very slow corners when you consider the angle of them. And when you're cranked over like that, you wind on the power, it can happen. Even on these little machines, as I just mentioned, they are capable of getting themselves up to 135 miles an hour, and you can easily high side, as you've just seen. And Chen there went down with a bit of a bang, and I hope that he is okay.
Situation here then, we've never had a red flag actually before in a Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup race. So of course the reason we've gone back to lap 6 and not lap 7, it's great to see the rider being brought back into the pit lane. You can see one of the Asia Talent Cup team representatives there. So now flashing up on our timing screen. My goodness, this is going to be interesting. Pit lane will open at 12:30, which is just over 7 minutes time. For 1 minute, it'll have to stream out there. When the race restarts, it will be a 5-lap sprint to the flag. So just to confirm, it's a 13-lap race. The 2/3 distance was lap 8. So had everybody finished lap 8, we would not have restarted the race. We just started lap 8 with the leaders, which means the last full lap was lap 6 for all riders. So when we get back underway, we will have a 5-lap sprint to the flag. That could be rather dramatic.
Well, when isn't it dramatic, this? As I mentioned, the Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup, you know, you wouldn't put anyone as a favourite after that. But, you know, this is, for many reasons, obviously everybody will be hoping that Chen is okay, but this is a part of bike racing. It happens at all levels. We see it at World Championship level regularly, and it's something that you have to you have to get yourself in the right mindset in these particular moments. Sometimes it's difficult because riders like to have a certain amount of time to get themselves in the zone. Other riders, it doesn't really matter. They can just do it at any point. So these are all experiences for the younger generation.
Latest update on the timing screen then, not 12:30 but 12:33 to be precise for the pit lane to open, so 10 minutes until that will happen. There is Fahmi Karadin on the right-hand side. Moto3 rider, of course, a bit of a difficult year, unfortunately, at the moment for Fahmi. There are actually 4 Karadin brothers altogether. This is the oldest brother on the right, so Nidahan, who ran off the track earlier on. We saw a replay of it, if you remember. He's the youngest brother. Brothers 2 and 3, you could say, were the sensible ones. They're studying at the moment and avoiding motorcycles. But you remember back in Moto3, 3 years ago, 2012 it was, Fahmi nearly won the World Championship race here. He was beaten by Sandro Cortese by just 28 thousandths of a second.
This, of course, coincides with the...
Hadn't fallen asleep, had you?
Oh, this coincides, of course, with the World Superbike Championship here this weekend as well. So there's some other racing going on here this weekend. But in the Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup, this is the young rider that leads the championship overall. As it stands, when they last went across the line earlier, it was a 21-point lead that Sasaki had, but you have to forget that, and one presumes that these are the same situations and same rules as normal, and that they will actually line up on the grid from where they last finished across the line. It will be a complete restart, not, of course, a 2-part race that we used to see in the old days. God, they used to be tough to try and work out, those 2-part races. And a few colleagues of ours down in pit lane there.
Yes, Valerio Piccini from Dorna and Oscar Garcia, star cameraman. A bit of an interview there for, I would imagine, the World Superbike website. You saw, incidentally, Hiroshi Ayama down here as well. These are 2 pit garages towards the end of the pit lane. You can see the setup. All of the Asia Talent Cup bikes are down there, of course, all provided with refreshments as well. There's a board up in there with information on, indeed, the lap record here of Somkiat Chantra. He was not beaten. There was a 3-day test here before the start of the season. There then is Hiroshi Ayama, very good record himself here in Grand Prix racing. Took his first win, actually, in the 250s 10 years ago almost. Can you believe it? At Motegi in Japan, but 9 times a winner in 250cc, 27 podiums, 8 poles, 11 fastest laps for Hiroshi Ayama. So he certainly knows what he's talking about. And 4 poles and 2 wins here. 2007 and 9 for Hiroshi Ayama at Sepang in the 250cc World Championship. Interview underway then for Mr. Piccini on the right-hand side of your screen, formerly in the paddock as the press officer for the BMW Motorrad Italia team, incidentally, and now working with Dorna Sports. They've got to keep calm down here, haven't they? They've never had a red flag before in a Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup race. I can't imagine that's the suitcase to go back to the airport already, Steve. We are a stone's throw from Kuala Lumpur International Airport. When you head down the start-finish straight here, you're practically heading straight towards the main runway. It's just a stone's throw from the racetrack. It's very handy indeed, incidentally, for everybody who's making their way here to the circuit. It was built, of course, in 1998 and 1999, opened in 1999, one of the Herman Tilke tracks. MotoGP came here first, and then Formula One later that season. Replay then of the race so far. We are under a red flag at the moment here at Sepang. It was Ayuma Sasaki, the Asia Talent Cup leader and yesterday's winner, starting on pole position. That was all decided by a 30-minute qualifying session on Saturday, which determined the grid for both races. Brilliant start by Ai Ogura. From 7th on the grid, he was already up into the lead of the race at the first corner. As you can see by this point, the number 22, Sasaki, was back in the lead. What a great shot. That sums up the race so far. Officially a 6-lap race when you do the count back after the red flag. As Steve said earlier on, 15 riders, all of the points contesting riders battling in the leading group. We have had 2 retirements, the 2 Chinese riders out of action. The second of those incidents, of course, triggered the red flag. Good to see that both of the riders have been able to walk away from those incidents, and it is now 12:28 local time here in Malaysia. 5 minutes to go then until the pit lane opens. It'll be open for 1 minute, and then they'll be out there for a 5-lap sprint to the flag. There is the incident then for Chen, which caused the red flag. You can see there the Chinese helmet on the top of the crash helmet. One of the few ways of identification apart from the number, as I said earlier on. Now listen into this. This is the starting procedure being explained. Listen in.
Come here. Directly. Play. Okay? Non-stop bike. Mechanic, go. Warm-up lap. Okay? Helmet on. Now. Okay? Start to push this thing.
All of this being recorded incidentally as well for a bit of a documentary that's done for every Asia Talent Cup round. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it as well on the MotoGP website, MotoGP.com. It's almost like a bit of a reality television program. The riders behind the scenes as much as on the track. It's all put together, very nice montages of about 10 minutes for each and every meeting. Fancy headgear there.
It looks like he's getting himself prepared for a water polo match, but no, the documentary is quite a nice idea, actually. I remember they did that back in the UK with the Yamaha R6 Cup. I think it was around about 2002, maybe 2001, when the likes of Cal Crutchlow and Tommy Hill, etc., were fighting it out on the R6s, and that used to be interesting to watch. So, yeah, these youngsters being filmed from an early age. Well, I wonder whether or not one of them will be winning World Championship races in the next 10 years or so. So Sasaki it is that leads the championship, number 22, Ayumu Sasaki, ahead of Masaki. At the moment, the championship standings on our screen aren't right because they have got the standings as it stands from the last lap. So Sasaki will resume 33 points ahead when we restart this race. The only question now is, are they all looking at a screen to see where they are on the grid? Because they won't be starting from where they originally started. And let's have a look. Yep, yes. There you go. They're looking at the grid sheet there.
Look at that as well. Tyre warmers on, just reminding the riders of all of these procedures. Top of the board there is that lap time from Somkiat Chantra from testing, and you've got the schedule there as well. It's also new for the riders. It's not just the setup of the bike, it's the whole procedure over the course of a race. And you were just mentioning the timing screen, Steve. It now has reverted here in the commentary box to that 33-point lead of Sasaki over Masaki. So the grid we've now just come through. It's a 5-lap sprint, as I say. The end of lap 6 was the last full lap. So they will resume in a different order this time. So Masaki will start on pole from Agura and Atira Puvapat. That could be a very exciting front row. Sasaki, who is the cup leader and started on pole originally, will be 4th from Kaniname. Rostam Date on row 3. So he's benefited, hasn't he? Because he ran wide and dropped down into 15th position. Then we had the red flag, and it's gone back a further lap. So Date will resume battle from 7th. Then it's Salim. Rossell will start 9th. Row 10 will be Asman. Noridin has got to fight through from 11th. Then it's Yamanaka, who was up at the front in the early stages. Izdihar, Anua, and Fusay will be row 5. Shimontri, Kairidin down there in 17th place from Lachlan Taylor. And Irwan, the number 5 rider, starting from 19th, and all on his own down there at the back of the grid on row 7. That's Luth Irwan. He's one of the Malaysian riders who's been drafted in as a replacement, so a real challenge. It was himself, and of course Kairidin's also riding here for the first time this weekend. 1 minute to go then until the pit lane opens.
I think one of the problems, that the reason why it's gone back, of course, to lap 6 is because whilst the leaders were on lap 8, some of the tail enders hadn't actually completed lap 7, and so then it has to go back to the last lap where all riders went across the line, which is why it's gone back to lap 6. So yeah, you're right, Date really has benefited, and in general anyone that maybe made a bit of a mess of the earlier start have another chance here from the start of the race. So Yuta Date here, this could be, sometimes, you know, you can look back on these moments and say that is the moment where my season changed, because when it comes to confidence, which is everything, and a lot of this is mental. You can have the talent, but if your head's not in the right place, it will not work. If Date could get himself a top 3 or 4 place, and bearing in mind you've mentioned that there is a lot of people that widely believe he could go on to great things, it's all about just getting that one result, and it can all change from there.
He really needs it, because he was up there very strong indeed in the championship last year. As I said, he led the championship all the way through until we came to Sepang at the start of that final meeting of the season. Look at those clouds at the top of the screen. I wouldn't say it's threatening, but you could hardly say it looks comfortable. There are no final results. Trust me, The race will restart for 5 laps, and they are now leaving the pit lane. We've got 1 minute to get out there. They'll all be out there quite comfortably, as you can see, before the 1 minute is over. Careful as you like then on the run back around to the grid. But quickly back to Date then. He won the very first race in the Asia Talent Cup in Qatar last season, won again in China. 2 races, 2 wins I should say, 1 second and 3 third places. So very, very consistent indeed for Date. Only twice wasn't on the podium last season out of 9 races then, and only failed to finish in the very, or failed to score I should say, in the very last race here at Sepang, and that was an incident which was not his fault. He's in the Asia Talent Cup team, the Asia Talent team in the Moto3 Junior World Championship this year. It's been a difficult start there as well. Best result so far for him was a 9th place finish. No, I'm reading the wrong list, Steve. Best result for him there so far. Had to get it wrong at some stage. For Date so far in the Moto3 Junior World Championship, 2 11th places, one of them in Catalonia, one of them in Aragon. So, as you say, really does need a confidence boost. Watch out for Date, then he'll be starting 7th on the grid. So that will be the 3rd rider along on the right-hand side of the grid next to the pit wall. Pole position here is on the inside line.
Yeah, and he will be running number 6, the 16-year-old from Hiroshima. And so we will keep an eye on him. Now then, Masaki it is then that will start from pole ahead of Ogura, who got that rocket ship start earlier on from 7th on the grid. Atira Puvapat, the Thai rider, number 13, will start from 3rd. Sasaki, Kanimane and Rostam on the 2nd row. Earlier on when you talked about the fact that this is of course now open to young Australian riders and New Zealand riders, that's really good news for Australia, because very, very tricky, you know, to get young Australian talent through the systems. The Australian Championships, they won't mind me saying, not the strongest in the world. The Japanese Championships, in contrast, quite strong. You can really get yourself noticed there, and of course with manufacturers, of course most of them hailing from Japan, you can find a way through. But Australians have to travel to Europe, some have to travel to the UK in order to get themselves noticed, and it can be quite a tricky cycle. So to have this as an option for young and aspiring Australians, and of course riders from New Zealand as well, there really is a platform there, and maybe we'll see 1 or 2 more Australian riders and New Zealand riders coming through the ranks over the next few years.
Indeed, look at the GP3 series over in Japan. It's basically their equivalent of a national Moto3 series. 3 renowned names already in the Asia Talent Cup. Kanimane, Date, Sasaki, they've all come through that Japan GP3 series from their national country I should say, over the last few seasons. Very, very hard charges over there indeed, and how many amazing Japanese talents have we seen in Grand Prix racing in particular, and also of course many wildcard performances in World Superbike in particular, certainly in the 1990s, coming through and winning at the likes of Suzuka of course, or perhaps Sugo in Japan in the case of World Superbike. Now this is what you mentioned before, they need to be really careful here. You can see their race numbers have been put down with those markers. They're not in their original grid positions, they're lining up where they ended lap 6 of the original start, so they need to weave their way through. Shouldn't be too difficult, but the main thing is just remembering where you were from when you've just left the pit lane, remembering where you need to line up on the grid.
Yeah, hopefully they'll all remember and it won't be too much of a problem. Going back to the Japanese GP3 Championships, there was a time, probably around 15, 16 years ago, where that was the championship outside of the World Championship to get yourself noticed at 125 GP level. That was, of course, until the CEV Repsol Championship came along, and now all of a sudden, if you want to make it into the Moto3 World Championship, that is the place to go and get yourself noticed first. It's kind of the next step down, if you like, the Junior World Championships as it's now known as. So, yes, here we go. 5-lap race. Nakarina Tirapuvapat there. A little easier to distinguish at the front compared to a few of the other riders, because he's the only one in the top 5 or 6 with a grey helmet. Here's number 5, that's Lut Erwan from Malaysia, having to start from pit lane, maybe not having got away quite as easily. Number 17 there with a easy to spot helmet as well. That is Fakusi Rostam. Number 8 with the plain white helmet is Idaham Khairuddin, who we mentioned, younger brother of Fahmy.
Interesting to see them. He's punched right through almost to the front of the pack, carried in there second in the train. This is what's known then as the quick restart procedure. They've gone straight round on the reconnaissance lap, the sighting lap from the grid. The mechanics, as they were explained, the riders down there in the pit garage, mechanics did not come back out onto the grid. They form up. This is now their second warm-up lap of the afternoon and just 5 laps in front of them. Look at that in the background. That's the number 22. Getting a little bit annoyed, is he, there with the number 21. That's Sasaki and Kuniname, two of the real front runners in the Cup and indeed in the races this weekend. Obviously, they don't need to run around in grid order, but that's the first time we've really seen Sasaki, who's usually very cool and composed, getting a little bit ruffled there, I think it's fair to say, on the warm-up lap. No need to get too panicky, though. It's only the warm-up lap. They're making their way back around to the grid, and as you can see, Carradine still up there, running around behind Agura at the front of the pack. They don't want to get too spaced out either, otherwise you get that horrible apprehensive feeling for those sitting on the grid, waiting for the others to come through and line up. But that's also a tactic sometimes, isn't it? We often see, I remember Scott Redding in the Moto2 Grand Prix at Silverstone back in 2013. He qualified on pole for his home Grand Prix. Of course, he went on to win, if you remember, did the memorable wolf impression in the gravel trap over at Farm Kerr, but he weaved right through, if you remember. They were all sat on the starting grid. It came through to pole position, left them all waiting. So a bit of tactics there from Redding 2 years ago. And we might see a little bit of that here in the Asia Talent Cup as well. Weather, looking out of the commentary box window, generally clear skies, just a few clouds scattered if there is any rain, and we did have a few drops on turn 14 on the original race start. It certainly doesn't look to be returning at this very moment.
Here we go then, 5-lap race coming up. Championship leader Sasaki, 33 points clear of Masaki. Then it's Somkit Trancha, who sadly can't be with us here this weekend because he broke his leg last week, the winner of the opening race of the season, and has so far had a couple of podiums as well.
Yeah, that's so unfortunate, isn't it, with the broken leg. Did you see the Porsche Cayenne safety car in the background, almost getting it sideways there, coming out of turn 14 on to the back straight? Those things are rather powerful, aren't they? And there was a good demonstration of it there. Interesting, actually, to see the Porsche out on the track and not the Alfa Romeo 4C, which, of course, is the official safety car for the World Superbike Championship. And obviously on MotoGP weekends, you'll see the BMWs out there as they support MotoGP as the official safety vehicle. So they line up as they finished lap 6 of the original race start, I should say, and 5 laps in front of them. No need to get too worried, I don't think, anybody down there, because it was all very close anyway. The top 15 was absolutely locked together. Let's watch out, though, for the likes of Data, who starts 7th on the grid. And remember, the original pole setter, Sasaki, is now on road 2. Masaki, who incidentally is second in the championship to Sasaki and 33 points behind, now has a golden opportunity because he, right-hand side there, is now on pole position.
Green flag waves at the back, so it means that we are all clear. And the red lights will go on in the top left corner. When they go out, we will be off, and away we go. Another good start from Ai Agura. Look at that, the number 9 has really got that off to a T in lead, but immediately putting into the slipstream is that Attira Puvapat, number 13 it is. He pulls out of the slipstream and will now try and go up the inside into turn 1 and will take the whole shot. Sasaki it is in 3rd, up ahead of Masaki, and that's a massive crash there. A number of riders have gone down into turn 1. A couple of them have got up, few waving hands, but the original rider that went down is still down and looks a bit hurt. Big moment there in this Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup. We'll see what happens from that in a moment, but for the time being, Attira Puvapat it is that leads from Agura. Sasaki is now up into 2nd place.
Well, Masaki, I spoke about a golden opportunity. He bogged down from pole position off the line. I certainly saw the number 23, Andy Izdahar, the winner of race 2 in Qatar earlier this season, was diving up the inside. Let's see what happens. Look on the right-hand side of your screen. There's contact there between 2 of the bikes, a separate incident further back, and then they find themselves being caught up in the first crash. Number 10 is certainly down there. That's Adam Norridin. We spoke about Norridin. He was a front runner earlier in the race, was stuck in the middle of the pack, and that's another faller. This is a separate incident further around the lap. So we're now getting the numbers on the timing screen. What's this? This is one of the front runners then. From 3rd position, 3rd and 4th made contact coming out of turn 6. Is he going to make the barrier?
Oh, that is Ai Agura that's gone down, and he did well there to dump the bike before running over towards the barriers. So there's a real... well, there's a lot of riders that have gone down and out of this one. It was indeed, as you mentioned, Azroy Anwar, another rider that was involved in that crash down into turn 1. So let's take a breath here and look at the front. It is Sasaki and Attira Puvapat with a bit of a gap. Back to Kinimane, Salim, Date, Masaki and Rostam. We only have 15 riders left in the field, so if you finish the race, you're on for some points, and there's a few riders out there that are yet to attain points in this championship. One of them being Lachlan Taylor, the Australian rider, who at the moment is in 14th.
Number 6 up the inside, that's getting very, very tight into turn 15. Number 6, the first of those two pairs of riders side by side. That is Yuta Date, of course, who started 7th. Here he is on your, well, in the middle of the screen now, 5th in the race as they come through to start lap 2 of 5 in this restarted race. Slightly different race than now because of all the attrition we've had. So 5 riders failing to make the end of that first lap of the restart. 4 of them indeed down at turn 1. It was Sasaki leading across the line. Attira Puvapat was certainly second. Kinimane, though, attacking down at turn 1. I do believe Kinimane, the number 21, yes, he has. He's gone up in front of Attira Puvapat and into second place.
Yeah, it was a bold move from Kinimane there, but the only thing is he's actually held up the rest of the pack, and that's, of course, allowing Sasaki to get past. Now then, that's the white flag with the red cross, so we've got drops of rain here on the circuit as well. The drama continues in the Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup. Sasaki here will just look for a couple of laps to try and pull away. You could see Masaki number 2 getting aggressive in 4th place. It's Attira Puvapat though in 3rd, trying to find a way past Kinimane. Number 4 in that group is Jerry Salim. You've also got Rostam there as well. Yuta Date is number 6, having a good run out. Number 17 I mentioned already, Rostam. So anything can happen here at the front. We're getting reports now that number 23, Andy Izdihar, who of course high-sided down into turn 1, is now at the medical centre, so all the best to him.
Yes, and that was the rider who we saw being attended to on the ground and was, of course, the winner of the second race in Qatar earlier in the season. So drops of rain, incidentally, this time are being reported at turn 1. And if you think about the original start, turn 14 was the scene. Well, if you look at the track map, of course, turn 14 and turn 1 are pretty much next to each other. Turn 14 at the top of the back straight, turn 1 at the end of the start finish straight. So certainly the rain is coming in from the airport direction at the moment and moving across towards the Sepang International Circuit. Another one down, that's Yamanaka. He was up at the front of the original restart. This is the left-hand hairpin of turn 9, so another one gone. That, I do believe, leaves us with only 13 riders left in the race.
I've just heard reports that there are rumours coming from, well, rumours, facts coming from turns 4 and 5 that there are drops of rain there now as well. And so these are some interesting moments in this race. A bit of a front-end wobble there for number 2, Masaki. But as we go across the line to complete, or start, shall I say, lap 3 of 5, we're past the halfway point of this race, and here comes number 2, Masaki, trying to find a way past Kinimane. 3 Japanese riders in the top 3. Attira Puvapat then in 4th.
No surprise that the championship leader is leading the race again. A lot of chatter there for 2. That's Masaki. He was on pole when the race restarted. On the right-hand side, 4th is Attira Puvapat. Masaki, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, has just put in the fastest lap of the race so far. So absolutely locked together, and we did indeed see there the red and white flag being waved in the back of your picture on the outside of turn 1. So 3 laps to go, including this one. We're coming up to half race distance in this restarted 5-lap sprint here at Sepang. Of course, there's different targets now. The likes of Sasaki looking to retain the championship lead. Further back, we've got Date, for example, looking for a good, strong finish. And as you said earlier on, the likes of Lachlan Taylor, they just need to finish this race and pick up some points.
If there are drops of rain around this circuit, there's certainly no sign of the throttle being rolled off by any of these riders. The lap times are still down in the low 2:19s at the moment. They did qualify with a 2:17.2, but yesterday's race pace was in the 2:18s and 2:19s, so they're not rolling off, they're not holding back. The youngsters of the Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup, the championship leader, leads overall. Number 22 ahead of Masaki. It's Sasaki with the series lead. Then Attira Puvapat, a bit of chatter from the front end as he makes his way into turn 9 in 3rd place.
The local crowd's got reason to be pleased as well, because Idaham Karidin is running in the top 10, making the most of his Sepang knowledge in these slightly inclement weather conditions. He's now ahead of City Ponsri, ahead of Lut Irvan and ahead of Lachlan Taylor. So Karidin is in the top 10. Can he do anything about Asman, who's only 7/10 of a second in front of him? So the top 8 are separated by 1.7 seconds and 13 oh, look at this. This is the group fighting there. Not quite the leading group, the second group. We very much have 3 groups now. The leaders are beginning to inch away. You've got the top 4 inching away. Behind them there, you've got 5th down to 8th position. Darte, the last of the bikes at the moment, and then 11 seconds, make it now 14 seconds further back, is Kyrudin in 10th.
Going up into the lead there, number 2, it's Masaki making a move on Sasaki, and they will go across the line, 1 and 2. In 3rd place is Kanimane, then Atira Puvapat. Sasaki has a look over his shoulder, did that a few times yesterday, didn't he? Then a big gap. I'd say about 1.7, yeah, it is 1.7, 1.8 seconds. Salim, Rasol, Rostam and Darte, riders from 5th down to 8th.
Remember, it's Sasaki with a 33-point lead. So if Sasaki wins the race from Masaki, that lead is up to 38 points. If it's the other way around, it goes down to 28 points. So we're talking a big, big difference there. Potentially talking about 10 points there, if you like, with only 6 races to go. Halfway point of the standings, the season, don't forget, at the end of this race. Masaki was fastest that time round by 0.6 of a second. That shows what a toe can do for you, but he's currently sat there in 2nd place. Where do you want to be? So far in this race, certainly this afternoon, Steve, we've not really seen anybody coming out of the last corner and slipstreaming ahead of their rival before the line. It looks as though you want to be ahead when you come out of the last corner. It's not like Qatar, where you've got a long run to the line. No,
but would you want to be ahead coming out of turn 14? That's the question as you head down that back straight. Here comes Masaki, though, number 2. He doesn't mind leading at this point and goes up the inside off Sasaki. The more these two trip each other up, the more involved Atira Puvapat and Kanimane can get in 3rd and 4th. If only they could work together here over the next half a lap, they could actually make sure that it's going to be just either one of them that takes the full points. As it is, I think that Atira Puvapat in 3rd has got other ideas, and they now really need to stay in the same position, both Kanimane and Atira Puvapat, if they've got any chance of catching these two out front.
Yeah, we know Atira Puvapat loves diving up the inside last of the late breakers. There he is, the number 13. On your left there, 21 is Kanimane. He's one of, if not the best, at cutting through traffic, particularly towards the closing stages. But it's exactly the same as what happened in race 1 this weekend. Yesterday, Kanimane dropped back in the closing stages from the leading group, and there was no possibility to attack. Coming through to start the final lap, there'll just be 5.5 kilometres, 3.4 miles to go, and it certainly looks as though the top 2 in the Asia Talent Cup will be the top 2 in the race. It's Sasaki on the right, Masaki on the left. What's going to happen? 1 lap to go.
Change for 1st and 3rd then, as Sasaki goes into the lead ahead of Masaki, and in 3rd place Kanimane manages to go through, but fighting back there on the cutback, if you like, with his racing line was Atira Puvapat, but he slots back into 4th place. Across the line then to begin the last lap. Masaki pulls out of the slipstream and now goes up the inside. So into turn 1 we have a few changes. Do we know? Late on the brakes there from Sasaki. Can he keep his line? He can. Further back there, Atira Puvapat moves into 3rd place ahead of Kanimane.
Yes, Atira Puvapat desperate for his first podium since he won race 2 in Thailand right back in March at the start of the season. But these two surely now are out of the challenge for the lead of this race unless something really dramatic happens at the front. Good news for Australia, by the way. Lachlan Taylor's passed Irwan, so he's now moved up into 12th position. So he's on target for his first 4 points in the Asia Talent Cup towards the back of this field. Darte we were going to keep an eye on. Started 7th, not really made any major inroads. He's now running in 8th position in the middle of the pack, but half a lap to go. Let's focus our attentions on these 2 scraps at the front. It's Atira Puvapat versus Kanimane for 2nd, and there's your 2 leaders. Sasaki is the cup leader and current race leader. Masaki right behind him.
Ayuma Sasaki, who got a race win in the Asia Talent Cup here in Sepang last year, picked up a win yesterday, is now looking for win number 3. Almost like synchronised swimmers, both Sasaki and Masaki looked over their shoulders at the same time then to see who was joining them. Atira Puvapat has closed that gap down, hasn't he? And he's got Kanimane with him. Could we be in for some last-minute drama here as they head now towards the final stages of this race, out of turn 11, now into turns 12 and 13?
Well, that's superb stuff from Atira Puvapat, put in the fastest first section of the race so far, following his personal best lap of the race last time round. So they have indeed closed the gap. And what's going to happen on that 920-metre drag here out of turn 14 down to turn 15? What's going to happen?
Oh, Atira Puvapat used a bit too much of the exit curve, but he's now into the slipstream. Kanimane could really get the advantage from this. And let's see what happens then. They're all going so close to the grass there on the right. It's Sasaki at the moment that has it. Watch for the lunge here from Atira Puvapat. Oh, Sasaki's gone down. He's taken Masaki with him, and that will leave Atira Puvapat to clear up. In the Thai rider wins here, the number 13. An unbelievable win for him. Since Thailand. That was the last time, as Greg mentioned, he was on the podium. In second place is Kunumane, and in the background there, Rostam, number 17, the Malaysian rider, has got himself onto the podium. What drama there! Into the final corner. They're looking to restart. Well, we'll see a replay of that in a moment. That was major drama. The championship leader for the first time this season drops out of a race.
Well, that is sensational stuff. Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup never fails to surprise. First repeat winner then of 2015 is Nakarin Atirapuvapat, perhaps the most difficult name to pronounce in motorcycle racing. Atirapuvapat then up the inside. There's the number 22, massive front end shatter for the 22. That was Sasaki, went down and wiped Masaki. He was the victim there, out of the race. Kununame took the wide line into turn 15 and tried to do what he did in Qatar, which was come from fourth to win the race on the drag to the line. Well, I said Atirapuvapat might be out of the running unless something really dramatic happens. It most certainly did, and he set the fastest lap of the race on the very final turn, 2:18.023. Now, could the others actually cross the line? Because don't forget, they're trying to pick up points. Masaki classified in 12th place. Sasaki, retirement officially. So we'll see how that pans out. What drama.
The funny thing was, after that, Atirapuvapat tried to tuck everything in to the behind the screen to make sure that he was going to get the win. He was almost trying to climb inside his own tank. But for a rider that is so smooth and consistent, I'm not quite sure what the game plan was there from Ayuma Sasaki. That was never going to work. His front end was chattering. He was so late on the brakes. It was never going to happen for him. And it was just most unfortunate for Kazuki Masaki, the other Japanese rider there who was fighting for the win, that he had absolutely nowhere to go at all. But as you say, looks like he might be classified in 12th. We'll get confirmation of that then in a moment. Atirapuvapat then, the Thai rider who, at the start of this weekend, having come into this weekend with a DNF in Qatar last time out, wondered whether or not he'd be a part of this championship still. Well, he certainly is, because he moves up to second overall in the standings with that, and just 19 points the difference. Unbelievable stuff in the Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup, and only 12 finishers. Lachlan Taylor, who's never had a point in this series so far, the Australian's got a top 10 finish. He's finished in 10th and will take 6 points away.
That's incredible stuff, isn't it? And the first podium there as well of the season for Fakuzi Rostam as well, the number 17, the 18-year-old from Malaysia. So great stuff, and isn't that brilliant as well? 3 different nationalities on the podium. Atirapuvapat from Thailand, Kununame from Japan, Fakuzi Rostam from here in Malaysia. And here he is on screen. Brilliant stuff. That's what the Asia Talent Cup is all about. I suppose Sasaki was fortunate in that he went down, but he wiped out his nearest challenger in the championship, so it limits the damage. What a shame, though. He'd done everything right, it has to be said, until that very last corner, which ironically was not where drops of rain had been reported. We'll get the cup standings in a bit, but it's Sasaki, as you say, 19 points ahead of Atirapuvapat. Kununame is third overall and 23 behind, so any one of 3 riders could lead the cup after the next race. We will regroup, of course, a bit of a break again now. We will regroup at Zhuhai in China on the 20th of September. And let's hope that Somkiat Chantra will be back in action as well, because he's not out of it yet. Drops down to 5th position in the standings, 40 points behind, but 40 points despite missing 2 races this weekend.
Yeah, that's the big point, and it's a very good one that you've just made there, Greg, as well. Somkiat Chantra will actually be watching this going, well, that is a major result for me, because he could have been well out of the championship. He could have been 65 points behind, which would have been a tall order with 3 rounds of maiding. He's now just 40 behind, having missed an entire round. Here you go then. The Thai rider Nakarin Atirapuvapat takes his second win, and the AP Racing Thailand representative there has jumped into Park Ferme and gives him a hug. Quite a tall rider, isn't he? Atirapuvapat, one of the oldest in the field at 19. There is the Thai flag then being wrapped around him. Kununame, number 21, another rider who's now very much in the frame in the championship. He's moved up to 3rd overall, and he's only 23 points behind, having won the last race in Qatar. There he is. And then, of course, Rostam, who didn't finish the first race of the season, then finished 9th in race 2 in Thailand, didn't finish the first race in Qatar, 8th the following race, has now got himself a podium.
Well, what a way to bring the curtain down on the first half of the Asia Talent Cup season in 2015. There's your final results then. Attira Phuvapat by what seems a massive, almost 0.3 of a second in the end from Kininime. Rostam on the podium for the first time. He had a couple of fifth places as best results right here at Sepang in 2014 at the end of the season. And look at that, nobody retired from the race yesterday. Only 12 finishes this time, and crucially then, Masaki picks up what will be 4 points for 12th. Sasaki out of the race along with all sorts of other riders. How many riders actually retired from the race in the end? I'm counting down the timing screen and I make it 7 riders retired. Of course, we lost 4 at the first corner on the restart. Here then are the Cup standings halfway through the season, and Sasaki has broken through the century 101 with that 19-point advantage over Attira Phuvapat. Kininime 23 behind Masaki. Poor old Masaki wiped out there at the end of the race, and Chantra completing the top 5. I've heard that Sasaki, by the way, Cup leader, is in the medical centre after that last corner incident.
Yeah, Masaki, by the way, as well, who has got himself that result by finishing 12th. He's now finished every single race. I wonder how important those 4 points will turn out to be in the end. It's Sasaki then that has won this race. That is still the championship leader. It's Attira Phuvapat that's won this race, who moves up to 2nd overall. Kininime 3rd in the championship, Masaki in 4th. Brilliant scenes then from the Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup. More to come. They'll now head to China, then to Japan and Malaysia again.
To 3rd classified rider, we'd like to invite the top 3 riders to mount the rostrum. We've got Fakuzi Rostam from Malaysia, Takuma Kunimeng, and Nakarin Attira Phuvapat of Thailand. And it's our pleasure to invite Mr. Karthai Kaur, Shell Advance Global Brand Manager, to present to 3rd classified rider, Fakuzi Rostam of Malaysia. Thank you, Mr. Khan. And now we'd like to invite Yang Bahagia Dr. Razlan Razali, CEO of Sepang International Circuit, to present to the 2nd place finisher, number 21, Takuma Kunimeng, Japan. Thank you very much, sir. And now it's our pleasure to invite Yang Mulia Tunku Dato' Mustafa Tuku Mustafa, Chairman of the Automobile Association of Malaysia, sir, to present to the winner of race 2. Goes to number 13, Nakarin Attira Phuvapat of Thailand. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the national anthem of Thailand. Photo for the top 3 riders, a super race it was, right down to the wire.